So, okay, Raheem. So we're late to the party a little bit there, but Najee Lopez getting an eighth round knockout of Manuel Gallegos was the toast of the boxing world this weekend. In a weekend that featured a title fight, that featured a main event in LA between Kenneth Sims and Arnold Barboza. But this kid, this young man, this contender, Najee Lopez, a lot of people are calling it the fight of the year, and we're very early into the year. It's just March, but a lot of people say this was the fight of the year. I'm hard pressed to really argue with that. I'm very confident it'll at least be an honorable mention, a contender in the top 5 by year's end. Awesome fight, spirited fight. What guts by Manuel Gallegos, the loser. And really, this is one of those fights we want to be like there was no losers. But what a fight, man. And I said over the weekend, Gabriela Fundora is the sweetheart, the new darling of women's boxing. She's been the darling for a minute. Probox TV, to give them props, man, they are the darling of the hardcore boxing world right now. People are feeling what they're putting down. They even got a good fight this weekend, Lester Martinez against Emmanuel Alim. But anyways, what'd you think, man? You made sure to watch the fight as well.
Well, you say we're late to it. I am because I was told to watch it by you, and that is one of the many things that allow you to be the kind of analyst that you are, is that you don't miss anything. Like nothing doesn't reach your radar that has value. And you're right, the weekend was busy. There's a lot going on. We did 2 fights. I watched both of them. We did shows on them. I got other things going on. Wu-Tang's in town. I'm trying to get to the Peaky Blinders while it's still in the theater. And you found, hey, this pro boxing card, man, we got to take a look at this. And it's maybe fight of the year. Now, granted, it's early in the year. And it is also, though, an example of what I did say on the weekend, which is like, well, just let the fight be the fight. Put the fights next to one another, and then you can allow for the audience and the analysts to say what it is, good, bad, or indifferent. This is the smallest of the platforms that went on this weekend. It was the least anticipated just because it's the least talked about, and quite possibly the best fight of a weekend that had 2 other really good fights in their own right. That's what boxing is. That's a beautiful thing. I hope this fight doesn't recede to the back of our memories by the end of the year when we are picking fight of the year or round of the year or whatnot. There's going to be hopefully a lot of competition for it by then. But this is a small hall show, if you will, by a small promoter on a small platform. But boxing is huge. The hearts of the fighters are massive. The action like that can happen at any platform, in any show, at any time, because all these promoters that are doing their job are doing their best to put fights like this in front of us. And so we would be remiss if we didn't do a show, even on Tuesday, about this fight. We would be devoid of our responsibility and obligation as boxing analysts if we only looked at Kakashi Dickens and we only looked at Sims and Barbosa. It was just like, we're going to leave Gallegos and Lopez out of the conversation. No, man. If it doesn't turn out to be fight of the year, it's damn sure was fight of the weekend and had the least hype around it. Like, so again, credit Sean Zittel, because it's just fight. We gotta pay attention to fights like this, and we gotta make sure that they get their flowers. And apparently the whole card was nice, and this was like the best of a really strong card from Probox.
No, you're giving me too much credit. You really are. Because I was busy working on the pitch machine we finally got for Leo so he can get better for his baseball games. And I'm out it was Saturday night. I'm doing, I think it was Friday. And I'm busy doing the pitch machine to him. And I'm checking my phone for the updates on the Probox card. And people are like, yo, this Najee Lopez fight is incredible. The other Naji from Cigar Talk is tweeting about it. My girl Lily is tweeting about it. All kinds of the hardcore. Brendan, our our Wu-Tang affiliate, our Wu-Tang associate, Brendan, True School Sports, he's been covering Najee Lopez for the longest time. He covers a lot of the trainers fighters, Mark Ferre, who also has Darrell Valsaint, who's a beast coming up on Probox. Lamont Roach had his title defense on Probox that led to him getting a Gervonta Davis fight. Angelo Leo, before he knocked out Venado Lopez in like the knockout of the year of 2024, he rebuilt himself after leaving Mayweather Promotions on Probox. So Probox, the hardcores already know they've been putting in work. That's why they have this grassroots spontaneous momentum, and they have a lot of the affection of the heads, of the boxing heads, of the real heads. So I got to give them credit. I got to give shout out to the boxing community for making sure I didn't miss this fight. Soon as I came home, I watched it. It lived up to everything I saw online, and then that's when I made sure Raheem's got to see it too. And anyways, here we are. So great fight, great commentary by the great Christina Poncher. I think, you know, she's one of the best in the business. You know Christina for many years too. She's a pro's pro. Paulie is Paulie, you know, one of the best and pulls no punches, and Chris Algieri. And they were selling too, you know, they were selling, but they had something really good to sell. So I didn't mind as much. They were right to sell this one. Anyways, for the fight itself, man, Najee Lopez, you know what? It's just because we're comparing it and contrasting, you know, to Zuffa and the overselling sometimes. Max is still very sharp, because when I got to borrow one from him. When Abdullah Mason won his first world title last year against Sam Noakes, he said, now you know the kid can fight. He goes, you could have a young, talented fighter that you know can box, that you know has fast hands, that you know has quick twitch and talent and power, but you don't know. It takes a fight like the one Mason was in with Noakes, or in this scenario, Lopez was in with Gallegos, to know if your fighter can fight. And now we know Najee Lopez can fight his ass off. He can fight, because this was a fight, and he was able to match the will of Manuel Gallegos so that his superior skill could eventually win out. And we'll get to that in a minute, but I'll let you talk about the skill and the X's and O's from your vantage point. But I got to give credit to the will of Manuel Gallegos for even getting a knockdown in the 7th round after he took hundreds of heavy power shots from a strong light heavyweight in Najee Lopez. The fact he even had anything left in the tank and was durable and strong enough to drop Lopez in the 7th as really his last hurrah before getting knocked out in the 8th is incredible. And that's something, Raheem, you think LaMotta, right before he got stopped against Ray Robinson in the final of their 6 fights, right before he got bombarded on the ropes and stopped for the middleweight title, he shot his last load in the 12th round. And that's something old school fighters used to do. They used to know that meter is just about here. I don't really got a lot left. I better spend it while I even got anything left in the tank and see if that last barrage can turn the fight. That was his final stand. And then credit for Lopez for summoning not just the skill, but the will to get him out of there in the 8th, when it easily could have just went 10, back and forth, seesaw. He was on his way to winning a close, tough fight. But the fact that he summoned that burst in the 8th round, bleeding and everything, to say, no. I'm going to make this statement. I'm going to get him out of here. I'm going to cap off this war with the conclusion, with the crescendo. So credit to both guys' wills there.
Before we get to the fighters, I too would like to echo your sentiments about the ring analysis and broadcast trio. Christina Poncher, legend in the game, been in boxing, doing her thing for many, many, many years. Respect and revere her a lot. What I like about the commentary is that they do it their way. A lot of times people forget that we're all watching the fight. It's not radio days anymore. No pun intended. It's always radio day for me. But we are not huddled around a radio in our living room waiting for the commentary to explain everything that's happening in the ring, because we can't see it. We can all see it. So Christina is in the role of the play-by-play, but she's very light touch. She's not over talking what's happening in the action. She accents big punches. She reminds you when a shot is landed and what the combination is, but she lets Paulie and Chris really just talk through it while the fight's happening. Those two in their commentary, they're dynamic and back and forth is fun to listen to. I've listened to their pod. I always want to hear their analysis. So I like that carries on even on the broadcast, and it doesn't kind of fall into more traditional roles where we're just listening to the play-by-play, rattle off everything that I'm already looking at, and then just sparse commentary from the color. No, color is kind of out front in this broadcast team, and then Christina keeps the foundation solid. It's a great, great squad. Love it. In addition to that, and this will get me into the fight itself, I believe it may have been the fourth round, maybe the third, when Paulie was like, I'm about to go to the gym after this. I'm about to go train. Let me tell you something. If you train boxing, much less if you fight or have fought for a living, you know exactly what he was saying, because I was thinking it 30 seconds before he said, I'm like, fuck, I'm about to go. I need to go to the gym. This fight was so fun. It was so contentious. It had all the elements that it makes you want to go to the gym and try your shit. It makes you want to grab your gym bag and see what you can do. It's almost like singing in the shower or something. Like when your favorite song comes on and you sing along with it, you think you sound like Luther Vandross or Whitney Houston, or you think you're rapping like Drake or Kendrick because you're so hyped because the music is in you. That's what it's like with boxing. You want to go and do the thing, because if you have any acumen for it, when you're watching it like this is what gets you up and gets you into the gym. This fight was maybe fight of the year thus far. Like, to this point, I'd say it probably is for sure. But with that said, there were two elements of it that you can look at two different ways. Either this detracts from its case as fight of the year, and really by no intentional fault of the fighters, the headbutts, right? So the headbutt creates the cut, which significantly influences what happens in the fight going forward. Now, we all know that two things can happen when a fighter gets headbutt and cut, especially early in the fight. Either you get this sense of urgency, like, okay, well, now this cut could get bad by the time I'm in the fifth and sixth. If this thing happened in the second, who knows how long this is going to hold up? There's blood in my eye. What if I can't see? Long term, I could get, beat up in this fight. And I think Paulie even acknowledges, again, great commentary. And so that makes that fighter press. Another thing that can happen is the opponent who opened the cut, whether it be headbutt or not, the cut's there now, something I can take advantage of. If I can run away with this fight because there's blood in this guy's eye, or that I can open up this cut and get this thing stopped, I can press the action right now, and maybe I can get out of a long night at the office. And then the third thing that can happen, and this is when you have the difference between a fight that turns out to be great like this, or you find out if you really got a fighter, is a fighter can be like, oh, I can find a way out. We're only 2 rounds in. I'm hurting. This thing could open up. It's a very close fight. I might not win it. Maybe I say I can't continue because I can't see, and this thing becomes a no contest. Or maybe I just win the next 2 rounds so I can be ahead on the cards and then say I can't see. So I can get a decision that I may not get 3 or 4, 8 rounds after this. The fact that I don't think looking for a way out crossed Lopez's mind. And I think what happened was the first and the second thing at once. I think Lopez knew now that he had to press and there was no room for a great era, and that Lopez was looking for big shots to potentially not necessarily target the cut, but knew that maybe a stoppage was in the offing for him if he could connect the big shots. And for me, the difference in this fight was a razor margin. We say it's in the details. Boxing can be a sport of inches, if you will. Well, one simple difference between the two, for me, is what made the difference ultimately in the fight. It's that Lopez was setting his shots up, touching, working behind the jab, always the second shot on top of the first shot, always touching first, always jabbing first. That little setup was allowing for a 2 or 3 punch combination to be exported, and that second shot was almost always the heavy shot. Almost never was it the first shot. So he was finding, he was range finding, he was distance finding, he was touching, and then he was making good contact. And ah,
Manuel Gallegos.
Gallegos.
Yeah.
First of all, well, I'm gonna Gallegos
Yeah.
was throwing heavy hands. I'm not saying he didn't use a jab at all, but he was looking for every shot was a power shot. Sometimes he was falling over his shots, and then sometimes like good body work, just shifting his power, putting
Mexican
it right
fighter.
into the hip, and that was it. Was either you're gonna get a knockout by Gallegos over Lopez with one of these big shots, like you say, late in the fight, even knocked him down, which could have been the end. But again, late in the fight, that headbutt, again, the second headbutt also played a major part. While it was Lopez who went to the knee, I think Gallegos had got the worst of that second headbutt. I think that really concussed him. I wouldn't be surprised if that is in fact a medical analysis after the fight. He probably got a concussion. Granted, there's a lot of punches he took, but also I think that headbutt, that second one that opened up the cut on Gallegos, changed the fight too. I think that's kind of how we ended up getting to the stoppage. So I don't know if these cuts with these headbutts make the fight a better candidate for fight of the year, or if it detracts from it being fight of the year, because I would like to see that fight without the headbutts. But maybe without the headbutts, maybe the fight isn't well. In fact, that's what I'm saying. I maybe think it doesn't go the way it went. I don't know. But that's one thing that is kind of bothersome to me. And the other thing is, if you have a Lopez and a Gallegos, I think Lopez needs to look like a Lopez and Gallegos needs to look like a Gallegos. Like, I have to admit, I don't know these guys that well. So I kept thinking like that Lopez was Gallegos, Gallegos was Lopez. Can we call them by their first names? Something. This Lopez just didn't look like a Lopez to me. And when it took me to like the fifth and sixth round, I like get my mind right as to who was who, and stop having to think about it. That is idiocracy on my part, but I had to admit that
Oh,
it
you
was
remember
bothering
Felix
me.
Trinidad? He looked like a brother too. You know, he's a Puerto Rican that looked like a brother. It's nothing new. Come on. But no, yeah, everything came off the jab. He's excellent in the pocket. Mid-range is his wheelhouse, and he fought well on the inside too, because Gallegos forced him to fight on the inside. He's a good light heavyweight, man. He was floated out as a potential opponent for Arthur Beterbiev last year, and you know it's a blessing in disguise that he did not get that fight. He's much more prepared now for that fight. I still think he's now in the top 15 of all four of the sanctioning bodies. I definitely think he still needs some seasoning before you put him in there, but he's close to being a finished product now, much more than he was before this fight. He's got to learn from this fight on a technical skill sense, tactics sense, so that you don't have to go to this well very often. Because if you got to go to this well every time out against a contender or a top 10 or 15 guy, then you might not be able to get it done at the championship level. And I almost think that's beside the point for people this weekend with him. The fight was so phenomenal, and he showed such character and still operated at a good, solid level and showed himself to be a real contender now at light heavyweight, that no one really wants to get into the weeds of can he fight with the Bivol? Can he? I think for Najee Lopez now, learn from this fight. You obviously showed some tools that you can punch in between punches, that you got a sharp jab, you can put combinations together, you got some different looks. Keep building on that, and only make these guys have to work for another war like this out. Don't willingly go to these kind of fights too often, even though we love watching them, and we'll certainly oblige and keep watching you if this is what's more to expect. But I think, he needs another fight or two or three to grow and climb the rankings from 14, 9, 10, around that, to the top 3 or 4 in the sanctioning bodies, and eventually fight, the winner of a Callum Smith, David Morrell coming up, but I think he's still got to smooth out some things for himself and keep improving on all his technical skills. But he definitely showed some skill, and the broadcast mentioned his jab right away that was peppering Gallegos from round one. The jab was one of the main keys between both fighters. They both knew how to throw combinations to the body and to the head. They both knew how to fight in the pocket. but whenever he needed to, he could control the fight with his jab in spots. But sometimes a fighter wants to prove they can go toe-to-toe against a warrior and show they can win a fight that way. And I think part of him wanted to do that. Now it's on him and his trainer, Mark Ferre, to learn from this fight and get better from it. And he is now a bona fide contender in the division. Lopez just got to learn from this, keep growing on his technical skills, and he's definitely a bona fide contender at light heavyweight now, and a guy that real boxing fans are going to be watching from now on.
Yeah, and a name like Naji that is suitable, so I'll be able to remember it going forward. I love that this was on Probox. I like that they are giving an example of what these kind of shows can do and the kind of talent that they can highlight, and have consistently done so. This is not like this is a one-off or something that has only just recently occurred. Like, Probox has had a lot of really solid talent. You've seen a lot of fighters for the first time, and then they go on, to have big moments. I believe Glanton, in fact, right, came through Probox, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he fought on there. His last fight before this Opataya fight.
Exactly. So, and to that point, we heard a lot of criticism. Now, granted, I was okay with. In fact, I liked the way the ref officiated that Opataya Glanton fight, but a lot of people were very unhappy with it. So, I think we can all agree, I would hope 100%, that that the referee in this fight, Lopez Gallegos, incredible. I thought the referee was perfect. Like, that's exactly what you want from the referee. That's what I mean by, because they were inside, they tied up a little bit and then worked their way out. The action was nonstop, inside, outside. You barely got involved. And then the best thing that he did was nothing. The best thing that he did was nothing at the end. Let this fight come to its natural conclusion. He could have jumped in 30 seconds earlier. He could have stopped this fight a few times before it really didn't stop. I mean, he did, but he didn't. It was over. Like, but the fact that we can definitively say it was over, that there's no question as to whether or not another punch should have been landed, absolutely not. That this is as definitive a conclusion as it was a definitive classic is the greatest gift that referee could have given us. I forgot he was there for most of the fight, and then just when we needed him at certain spots, he was in fact there. Sharp eye on the headbutt. That was could have been a second knockdown. Now, granted, knockdown ultimately wouldn't have mattered because we ended up with a stoppage, but it was good that that was called appropriately. Again, I think that headbutt actually might have changed the trajectory of the fight to an extent. I think he was concussed in that, and really, you can't ask for much more from a single fight. Whether if these fighters were world champions or if they had been on a bigger stage, you can't ask for a better, more entertaining drama, back and forth, knockdown in the previous round, and then get up to stop the opponent in the next round. Great commentary, referee doing his job right. Both guys classy. There was some kind of little fricas after the knockout in the ring with the teams. I really couldn't make out what was happening, but sometimes emotions run high. We'll forgive that, whatever that was about. And I think both guys really go on to benefit from this fight, even though only one guy can come through with a victory. We'll know and remember both of those names going forward.
Yeah, all it missed was Gary Jonas in the post-fight press conference saying, I feel like I'm beating up babies now. This is Probox. We're putting on more shows than anybody. So that's the only thing I was missing.